Have you ever noticed that when things go wrong in your life, when duality shows up, your mind instantly looks for someone to blame? If you're not blaming other people because maybe you're not in the basic babe consciousness, maybe you're in the self aware Barbie consciousness, you will instantly start blaming yourself. But the truth is, what if neither of those things are a problem? What if blaming other people or blaming yourself actually keeps you stuck? So here's the truth, babe. Our brain craves certainty and control. And when we don't have that, when we're overwhelmed, our blame can show up as a self-defense mechanism. It's looking for something to blame. It's looking for something as a cause of our suffering, as a cause of our discomfort. But here's the truth. All of it is a distraction because if you are in your comfort zone and you're safe, everything's good, you're not going to feel uncertainty. You're not going to feel fear, right? Everything's good, everything's how it's always been. But the minute you start moving towards something else, something bigger, something better, maybe you want to 10x your relationship. Maybe you want to take your business to the next level. Maybe you want to finally lose that last 10 pounds and be in your dream body. Well, now you start moving towards change. So, of course, resistance shows up. And once resistance shows up, it feels really uncomfortable. We start feeling like, oh my God, I'm going to lose control. And this is when your defense mechanisms will show up and distract you. They'll start saying, oh, it's her problem. She keeps buying you sweets. Or it's him. He won't let you move on to your next level. Or it's your mother. She keeps breaking your boundaries. So when we're doing that, we're now stuck in this loop of playing the blame game. And what are we not doing when we're doing that? We're not moving towards the thing that would have 10x our life. And I've noticed that people that are in victim consciousness, their first go to is to blame outwardly. So basic babes and basic boys, there's like, it's always someone else to blame. It's him, it's her, it's my mom, it's the government, it's the recession. There's always something outside of them that's to blame. With self aware Barbies and self aware Kens, they're not blaming someone else, they're often blaming themselves. I'm not enough. I'm broken. There's something wrong with me. I can never get it right. But just like with the basic babe, they're still keeping themselves stuck. It's still a defense mechanism. Because if I'm wasting time blaming you or myself, I'm still not moving. I'm still actually not making progress. And so the way that we can overcome this is first realize that it doesn't matter whose fault it is. It really doesn't matter. Because the point is, we're trying to move to a new level. So the problem is not people, the problem is not me. The issue at hand is how can I learn new skill sets or expand my capacity or find new solutions to this thing that I'm actually dealing with. So that's the first thing. No one's at fault. I'm not to blame. They're not to blame. We have a situation at hand. How can we move forward, right? How can we lose the weight? How can we 10x the business? How can we 10x the marriage? How can we, whatever that thing is? The second thing to note is you want to always right size the problem. A lot of times when fear or overwhelm shows up, when blame shows up, we add what I like to call mirch and masala to the actual problem. Okay, we add spiciness to it. The problem was this big, and now we made it a whole mountain. And I talked about in my book, like, don't solve imaginary problems. This is like needs to be ground rule number one. You can't solve imaginary problems anyways because they're imaginary, they're not real. And so, what we need to do is right size the problem. What is the actual circumstance at hand without me adding any fear to it, without me adding any spiciness to it, without me adding any masala to it? What is it actually at hand? What do I need to overcome, learn, grow, expand my capacity beyond? Okay, so that's the first thing we're going to focus on. So, one thing I also want to discuss is I have noticed this pattern, and I've been really noticing and studying this for a while. I noticed that women in my high end groups, for example, in Kainat, and even in groups that I'm a part of, like really high end masterminds with like high level women. I keep checking my mic because I recorded this whole video and there was no audio. So sorry if you noticed that, but just making sure there's going to be audio this time. I noticed this pattern that these women, whether they're students of mine or I'm a student in this group, in these groups, they never blame other people. I never have ever heard a question where a person was a problem, or there's like never any talk of like he's toxic or she's toxic. And I'm not saying these women are not dealing with stuff. Oh my god, some of the masterminds that I've been in, just even recently, women were dealing with cancer, they were dealing with infidelity, they were dealing with loss of children, like horrific things. And yet, you never hear them ask one question about someone else being a problem. And this got me so curious. I spent a lot of time talking about this, researching this, journaling it, contemplating it. And one of the things that came up in my journaling was 10 years ago, I used to be that person where my whole life was revolving around managing other people, what they thought of me, what they said to me, how they broke my boundaries, how I was going to defend myself. And when I was in that low level of consciousness, I didn't have this life. I didn't have the kind of marriage that I have now. I was married to the same man, but I didn't have this level of marriage, okay? I didn't have this career, this business. I didn't have this level of consciousness, wealth. I didn't look the way that I look today. I didn't weigh what I like. Everything was different. It was so different. And this is really an invitation because I know it seems like you're not there because everyone else is a problem. But what if you're so busy seeing everyone as the problem that you're not there yet? The next level that happened after that, which was like the self aware Barbie stage, is I stopped blaming other people, but I massively was blaming myself. Oh, I can't believe I said that again. Or I can't believe I did that again. Or I thought I've already healed this. And so it was like internalized blame, which quickly can turn into shame, which now is like a whole identity problem. And that was also keeping me stuck. I was way better than I was in my life than when I was blaming other people, but blaming myself was keeping me in this like go and stop cycle. I would be going and evolving and creating massive success, and then I would go into the spiral of blame when duality would show up, and for a moment I would lose that momentum and then I would have to build it up again. And so the what God was really inviting me to do at that level was, okay, we're going to get over this now. Like we're going to stop blaming ourselves. It's not our fault. We're just learning and growing. And so in this level, it's the activation of the $1 million babe, where we're in solution consciousness. Because here's the thing, whether it's their fault or my fault, at the end of the day, I'm looking for a win 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 solution. I want to have the kind of life where everyone wins. I win, my husband wins, my kids wins, my client wins, my friend wins. Like I want the whole planet to win. So if that is my consciousness and that is my goal, then let's just solve the problem at hand. Let's just figure out what we need to do to move forward. Now, I know that when you hear these high level concepts, sometimes when you're not there, you're going to see this as we're blaming the victim. Or, but what if I'm in a toxic relationship? Like, what if this is actually happening? And I'm here to tell you that all of that is real life stuff. The lessons that you need to learn in that stage are bringing the appropriate situations for you to take those lessons and move beyond them. A lot of times when people hear things like, you're creating the reality, that's not very useful or helpful because it's like, okay, well, what do I do now, right? It feels like, okay, I don't want to create this reality. So instead of saying, I'm creating the reality, I started saying, what do I need to do to transcend beyond this reality? What do I need to learn? Are there skill sets that I need to learn? Is there a new level of consciousness I need to embody? Do I need to change my identity, my behaviors? Is this a capacity issue? And when I start asking those kind of questions, the solutions that showed up were so different. And when I embodied those solutions, I would never have that problem again. Now my problem would be different. Which brings me to another point. We think that as we do inner work, we're not going to have any problems. That couldn't be further from the truth. At every level, the game gets harder. That's the whole point of games, right? Like, think of a video game. Think of life as this video game simulation. Every level brings on new challenges. I talked about this in the Money Money Come to Me masterclass, right? In the play shop. At every level, there's new issues that you now need to transcend by raising your consciousness. Well, people think that at every level, it's going to get easier. It's not that it gets easier, it's that you become stronger. And at every level, the opponent, the opposing force, whether you want to call it the devil or shaitan or the ego or the lower self, it's still going to be at your level. So when you are at a higher level of consciousness, the problems will seem bigger to other people, and they might even be big to you, but you are also stronger. The energetic and mental and physical and spiritual and financial resources that you have now at that level are a match for those problems. And at your level, like, imagine if you are an Olympic swimmer, you're not going to show up at the Olympics and run, a marathon or run the swim, whatever, with a toddler. You want a worthy opponent. And so at each level, the duality shows up will be worthy, but you need to trust that you have all the resources. And while your defense system is trying to distract you by saying whose fault it is, what you're not doing is moving forward. And so you need to keep your eye on the thing that you're supposed to be doing. What's the thing that I need to be doing right now versus getting caught up in this blame loop or shame loop or whatever the thing is that you do, that your defense system knows that this is how to distract you. So when I was sharing the story of how over a decade ago I used to be stuck in blaming other people, and then I moved on to like looking at myself and blaming myself, what was really interesting is when I moved to not blaming other people, but blaming myself, I started attracting situations where I was constantly put in the situation where someone else was blaming me and I was defending myself. And I realized that that was just like, what a waste of time. It didn't feel good to me. It was using up so much energy. I felt like I always had to defend my boundaries and why I said no and why I did this. And it was just such a waste of time. And I journaled on this. I did inner work around it. And I came to the conclusion that it really didn't matter to me whose fault it is. And so would come to these conversations, and let's say someone's blaming me and I have the urge to defend myself. And instead of defending myself, I would take the blame, which I'm not saying everyone should do this. This is just something that I was practicing playing with at this time. And so you've heard me talking about this in some of my in-person intensives. And so I showed up to those conversations, and people, my friends and family members, were used to playing out a certain dynamic where they would say something, it would trigger me, I would defend myself, and the conversation would derail into a direction that was lose-lose, and we weren't coming to solutions. And I broke the pattern by saying, you know what? You are absolutely right. This is all of my fault. And how do we move forward? And let me tell you, people were shocked. They were stunned. They didn't know how to behave. They didn't know how to answer that. Sometimes they wouldn't even hear. They would say, yeah, yeah, see, it's your fault. And it, they wouldn't even know how to move forward beyond what I had just said. But it really taught me something so important. One, that people are so trapped in their own triggers and their own stories that oftentimes they forget what they're even arguing about or what they're solving for. That was such a big lesson. And secondly, when you are not participating in that dynamic, you break the pattern, you break the cycle, and now you're inviting people into a solution consciousness. This took a lot out of me. Let me just say, as someone that was like grew up very criticized in my childhood, bullied, it took a lot out of me not to defend myself. But over the years, I've gotten better and better and better at this of just saying, Okay, if you're saying it's my fault, it must be. How would you like to proceed? How would you like to move forward? And this doesn't mean you become a doormat. So when they would give a solution, and if I did not want to do that, I would say that doesn't work for me. It I don't want to give you this money, or I don't want to raise you as my adult child, right? Whatever the thing was, no thank you. But it stopped this pattern of like getting entangled in these weird dynamics, and it put me in a completely different consciousness level. And you're not going to believe this, but all of that stopped because people learned that certain things and behaviors I'm just not going to entangle with. And when you stop playing with those things, people stop entangling with that. They know it's just not going to work. That pattern doesn't need to play out anymore because you have alchemized it, you've moved beyond it. Now, at the second tier, when I was stuck in the pattern of blaming myself, this is something high level women need to be careful with. Regardless of how successful you are, how high achieving you are, there will be moments in your life where you're having a bad day, when you're dysregulated, when you're caught off guard in a bad moment. And in those moments, if you don't have certainty in how you're moving, in how you're proceeding, people can entangle you in that dynamic of you're broken, everything's your fault. Notice that people that market to the masses, the 90%, right? The what we call the farmers in our world, right? There's a lot of pain point marketing. That's what that level of consciousness really entangles with. Well, pain point marketing doesn't work with us. It doesn't work with the huntresses. What works for us is desire marketing, pleasure marketing. However, a lot of people don't know that. So what they try to do is because they want high level clients like us as clients, because we've got the money, we've got the consciousness, we invest in ourselves. So of course, everyone wants us as clients. They don't know how to market to us. So they try the pain point marketing, it doesn't work, right? They don't know about the desire marketing. So what they'll do is they'll try to make you uncertain or try to get you on a bad day when you're already feeling uncertain, and then they'll try to make you believe that something's wrong with you, that you're broken, and they've got the solution. Instead of just marketing their thing as a desire, as your next level, they think their option is to bring you down, create some delta, and then give you a solution. The thing is, even if they hook you in that point, the minute you're certain again, you're not going to resonate with their product anymore. You're going to check out of that system because that's not who you are. And so, really, to go to your next level, you have to get out of this consciousness of that there's something wrong with you or that you're broken, which also is a part of that huntress gene. So, I do want you to be careful with that. That's something that's kind of encoded in how we are because we're now living in farmers' times, but we're hunters. So, it already seems like we're the odd ones out. Something's wrong with us. We're broken. So, if you blame yourself, you're just adding fuel to the fire. This is why in my work, I always start with, hey, we're not doing our work because we're broken. That's for the people who need therapy. Okay, great for them. Therapy assumes that you're in the red, you're in the minus, and we're trying to get you to normal. There is nothing normal about us. We're already in the high achieving, driven, ambitious, badass category. So we're not doing inner work because we're broken. We like to do inner work to evolve to the next level. We're in the coaching industry. This is how coaching is different. Coaching is for elite athletes and the celebrities and it's already for the top 10%. So you cannot come to coaching containers and the coaching world, which is what we are here, the Universe Grew, right? You can't approach it as you're broken, because the minute you do that, you've checked out of our field. That's not what we're doing. We're not saying we're broken, let's do inner work. We're saying we're badasses, the elite, the top 10%. Let's go higher. Let's go to the next level. Let's increase our capacity. Let's build more. Let's create more. So, both of those dynamics of blaming outward and blaming inward, like, cut it out, stop it. We're not doing that anymore. And anytime it creeps up, shake it out, transcend above it, do your inner work, expand your capacity, but do not entangle with any of that nonsense. That is not what we're about. I love you so much. Let me know your thoughts in the description, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.